Tien is wearing the blue Peter Pan Collared Blouse in a wonderful cotton. It has a fine little twill to it, and it's very lightweight. It's a really good fit. As you see, the collar hugs a little bit better than the muslin from that small alteration I did. And then if you could turn to the back, and you can see there's a little fullness, and that's what we wanted. This way she can wear it out, feel loose and fun in the summertime. She also could belt it, and it would have blouson, which is a really lovely look. And turn back to the front, please. So it's a good fit. She looks great in this color. And we'll move on to other blouses and other projects. Thank you, Tien.
Thank you.
And this gold blouse is the same pattern in a medium weight linen, and to give more shape, I have added the darts in the back.
Both sides were pinned approximately the same. If not, you want to average the measurement out. I can do this usually by looking at it, but use your tape measure. And if someone's asymmetrical, you will have to do this a little differently. But this model is very symmetrical. I've taken the sides in the same amount on each side, and the side seam is in the middle of what I have pinched in. Also, I'm measuring the middle, the waistline of the dart that I've created, and the lengths of the darts. And again, they're pretty much the same on each side, but the waist, I want to average those out. So mentally, I just add them together and divide by 2. In this case, at the waist, at the back dart, the intake is 3/4 of an inch. Now I'm measuring from the center of the waist dart to the center back of the garment, the center back line. I want to make a line parallel to the center back down the center of that dart. I also want to mark the bottom of the dart. At the waist, it's 3/4 on each side. I averaged them out, and that's what it comes to. So I'm putting a little circle there on top or on the line to know that that's my final mark. I go to the top, but first make the top of the dart, and now I angle from the top of the dart to the waist, and from the waist to the bottom of the dart. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't real careful. I'm actually going to the horizontal balance line. That line should have started exactly like the first one. And on my pattern, I will correct it. But both sides of that dart are exactly the same. They're symmetrical. So the first thing to do is create the new center line of the back dart. From the center back of the pattern, I'm going over the same distance that I did on the fabric, creating a straight line. I've marked the bottom of the dart, the top of the dart, and at the waist, 3/4 of an inch on either side of the dart, the middle dart leg. Then angle from the top of the dart to the waist, and from the waist to the bottom of the dart. Now you have a permanent marking for this particular dart. And you can see that this one is done correctly. Sometimes I'll put a little round circle at the tips and right inside what the intake is, 3/4 and 3/4, a total of 1.5 inches. That's for this particular model. Each body will be a little different, so you just need to learn to be sensitive to the model that you're working with. Now, to mark both sides of the pattern, normally I would put paper under this folded piece of pattern paper, but I'm using my tracing wheel and just marking through the first dart and it will perforate on the other side of the pattern, and then I'll go over it with pencil. This surface that I'm working on is a work surface, but if you're using a dining room table, you want to surely pad what's under the tracing wheel. I can barely see, but I can see those perforations, so that just allows me to lay my ruler right on top of them and fill them in with pencil. I fill out the information 3/4 and 3/4 so that I don't have to second guess myself later. I really like to have a lot of markings on my patterns. And now what I'm going to do is compare how much I've taken in the sides. It could be that one side is pinched in a little bit more, so I'm going to average those out. I'm marking where the new seam line will be, how far up the next marking is, using my ruler to fill in the new markings. This will be my new seam line. Marking the new seam allowance. This is 3/4 inch seam allowance. You can see it's really very simple to make these alterations on your pattern. Just so I don't get confused, I'm erasing the original seam line markings. Now, pinch in your dart in the direction that it will be pressed, and in this case I'm pressing it with my fingers down. I'm closing it entirely so that this front side seam will now be the same length as the back side seam. Just marking on the front where the new seam line will be, just to be sure. And now what I'm going to do is stack these, marking the new side seam lines together and pinning the patterns securely. Because the dart in the front was pinned shut, the two side seams are now the correct or the same lengths, and they're pretty much the exact same shapes. They should be anyway. Now, if I trim off the excess, I have, well, this just makes it so much simpler, trimming them together, and now I have the new seam allowances and seams marked. Putting a notch at the hemline. And now we have our new front and back. You can sew this blouse with the back darts or without. Without would be a softer fit.